This is our last video for section 2.1 for Intro to Proofs. So here we're going to work through activity 2.4, which is working with conditional statements. So here we have a bunch of English, at least, shortened because we don't know what P and Q are, but a bunch of English connectives that are generally an if and if-then. So we're going to identify the hypothesis and conclusion of each one, and then we'll write it symbolically. So I think we'll just draw for this one. So traditional, if P then Q, that means your hypothesis is P, your conclusion is true, is Q, and symbolic form is P arrow Q. Okay, Q only if P. Well, remember the only if means that Q is the hypothesis and P is the conclusion. And so you have Q implies P. Q only if P is the same as saying if Q then P. So P is necessary for Q. So necessary is the one that kind of works backwards. So the hypothesis for that is Q. The conclusion is P. So you have Q implies P. P is sufficient for Q. Then we have hypothesis is P. Conclusion is Q. P implies Q. Oh, P implies Q. All right, well, that's hypothesis is P. Conclusion's Q. P arrow Q. P only if Q. Well, we just had that over here. So it's backwards of that. So hypothesis is P. Conclusion is Q. P only if Q. Then P if Q. Well, then here we're saying that the if part goes with Q. So that makes Q is the hypothesis. And P is the conclusion. So you write it Q implies P. And then if P, then Q. Well, here's Q is your hypothesis. P is your conclusion. So then write it Q arrow P. I think my handwriting is getting worse as we go here. All right. If not P, if not Q, then not P. Well, little typo there. I meant to have a capital P, whatever. So your hypothesis is not Q, and your conclusion is not P. So not Q implies not P. Let's move this. And then here, if P, then Q, or Q and R. So hypothesis is P. Conclusion is Q and R. So P implies Q and R. If P or Q, then R. So hypothesis is P or Q, and the conclusion is R. So P or Q implies R. And that is the activity 2.4. So that makes us our last video for this section.